What's on my mind is the World Cup 2026 that's currently being hosted by Canada, Mexico, and the United States of America. And what's on my mind has been, why is anybody there? Why is anybody there? Maybe the players have to be there. I don't know. I'm not a FIFA fan. I'm not a football fan. I have no idea what contractual obligations people have, but I can't understand fans spending thousands of dollars going to these games. Now, I'm not asking for a boycott of Canada and Mexico, obviously, but if they will allow themselves to be paired with the USA, then unfortunately, they take the hit as well. People should stay at home. The stories have been appalling, whether it's the young Somalian referee that was grilled for 11 hours and then sent back, and all sorts of appalling stories. And even if we didn't have these stories of visa rejections and bonds and this, the fact that the United States has been at the center of the most atrocious war crimes over the last couple of years should be enough. Should be enough. What will be enough? What will be enough? That's what's on my mind. And I look forward to discussing more with you and Ekene.
Yay! Welcome to another very interesting edition of What's on Your Mind. And today we have two topics, World Cup 2026 and whether we deserve the leaders we have. And our interlocutor today, our guest, is Yinka Ogunubi, who has graced us with his intellect on a previous show. So welcome, Yinka. Welcome to the show. Yinka Ogunubi is a corporate treasury leader and president of the Association of Corporate Treasurers of Nigeria, also known as ACTN. He's known for shaping financial strategy, policy discourse, and industry collaboration. As a finance professional, he champions innovation in liquidity, FX risks, and digital finance, while influencing national conversations on governance, taxation, and economic development. Welcome again, Yinka. Good to have you.
I was going to say, thank you, Aisha. And you hold me lunch for what you did to my name, actually.
After telling you that I was naming you after our beloved vice president, is that not enough of a sweetener? Now, wow.
Lunch is not even a small. I was going to say, in Yinka's spare time, he's an avid Arsenal supporter. Yinka, am I right?
Yes, I am.
There you go.
And I'm interested in this conversation.
In fact, it's so good that Ekene organized to have you join us, because it would be really great to have a football lover's perspective on this. So Let me jump into what's on my mind. So the World Cup is here. 10 million people are expected to visit the United States for this World Cup. Just think about that. 10 million people, the hotels, the meals, the events, the sightseeing, the shopping, huge for the economy. Last Wednesday, Africa's top referee, not just any referee, top referee Omar Abdulkader Artan, a Somalian, was turned back from the Miami airport after 11 hours of being detained and questioned. Now, Somalia is subject to U.S. travel ban, and they claimed that he was under suspicion of having ties with terror organizations, so they sent him back home. Then we had visuals of the players from Senegal and Uzbekistan who were treated with much indignity at an airport tarmac in the name of being searched and processed for a flight. Scottish fans who had already paid for their tickets, flights and accommodation had their travel permits revoked just days before departure. Iranian players, and I confess this is the most shocking participation for me, as in what the hell are they doing there? Also given very restrictive entry into the US for their matches, which seem designed to ensure that they're not rested before their matches and they're just stretched out. And so I'm wondering, if only to show our disgust with the unjustified attack on Iran, on the decades of oppression of the people of Gaza, of Palestine, of Lebanon, of everything that we know about the United States and what it's doing to Cuba, isn't that enough for us to just boycott this World Cup? You know, there are three dimensions that I also think about it beyond just, can we not just stay away? And one is that we get told as Africans, as women, as minorities of any, well, we're not even minorities, we're actually global majorities, but we get told that excellence will get you the respect you deserve. Young Artan, the referee, is at the top of his game. Even though everyone is worthy of respect as humans, some of us have to try harder, we have to work harder. But what happened to him, it belies this notion, this thing that we're told that just work hard and you get what you deserve. It's a lie, because where there's racism involved or other forms of identity discrimination, then you will not get what you deserve no matter how hard you work. We get told that football is a unifier. And while yes, it's true in some ways, but the truth, again, what's happening and what continues to happen, not just because of the World Cup, but even just regular games in Europe, as we see the far right in ascendancy in many of the political parties, or we see a rise in nationalism and increase in all sorts of hate crimes against migrants. Again, we're told that football is a unifier, but no, it seems again that even this game that's nicknamed the beautiful game doesn't stop people from being hateful, from trying to express their superiority. And so I'm curious, again, since there will be other World Cups, the World Cup is like a bus, it comes every 4 years. Leave this one. Let's make a political stand. Let's not even make a political stand. Let's make a humanistic stand. Just boycott this one. And then there's the next one coming in another 4 years. You go for that one. And so for me, even if the players are compelled by professionalism to be there, I don't think the fans need to be there. I really don't. And I think even the way FIFA has organized this, you've heard so many complaints about how exploitative this particular FIFA arrangement has been in terms of all sorts of rules to make extra money, including not letting people come in with their water bottles, even though this is one of the hottest times of the year. And let's not even get into the cost of the tickets. I've heard that hotel prices, train ticket prices, all those things have gone up in the US. And when you compare that to how Qatar hosted 4 years ago, where fans took trains for free, just trying to make people feel welcome, that's not the vibe I'm getting from the US. The world is moving into a dark time. Some say there's a rise of fascism, but we can see it all around us. We can feel it. And I just feel like even in the name of football, we shouldn't be allowed to overlook these things in the name of, this is football. It's not political. It is extremely political. Who attends, who doesn't attend, who's allowed to come in, who's not allowed to come in, who has the funding, who doesn't have the funding. All those things are extremely political. So, but I'll come to an end with just these words. We must continue to build solidarity and unity. I agree. We should take every opportunity, but not at the expense of our collective dignity and humanity. And I think boycotting the World Cup 2026, at least the United States of America part, would have sent a strong message to the country and its inhabitants that people are not happy and things cannot continue this way. Over. Now your thoughts, Ekene and Yinka.
Yeah, my thoughts will be maybe succinct, but I do agree with you insofar as this language of boycott, I think we haven't even begun to explore it enough. One of the things I gathered from talking to someone who has a bit more knowledge than me about football is that the reason football is a big deal is because of the fans. The fans, as people have genuine interest and love for the game. It's a global sport. I don't think there's anything that matches it in terms of the investment and the way people worship the game. So if anybody can sway the way things are done, it's the fans. The fans have that power. You're right, football has been politicized. And it's one of those areas where we want to see the power of the people hold sway. Yes, you can't necessarily link what happened to the Somalian referee to any direct issues that we have with the head of the United States of America, but you smell a rat. You smell a rat and it's not pleasant. And so you want to be able to, at least on this one occasion, I wonder if, just trying to think from a practical perspective, could the horse have bolted on this particular World Cup? And maybe it's something that needs to be staged against the next one. I don't know. Is there any way the fans can articulate their disdain for all these things you've listed? I didn't even realize the extent of some of these things, not taking in water bottles. So it's quite informative. Yes, you heard of the high ticket prices. And yes, the Iranian team being told to fly in and fly out and so forth. Even though, like you say, you're surprised they're even attending at all, just shows you the extent to which this is really important to countries. So what is it practically, which I'm looking forward to hearing from Yinka, because I've already assumed that he's on our side in terms of, on the side of making some sort of statement that, the fans have some sort of power to drive change. But what does that change look like? Is it possible that they can prepare some sort of policy in advance that mandates countries that are hosting to confirm some of these criteria in advance? And if they then do what has been done on this occasion at the last minute, then they will have a red card and they will be boycotted in some way. Is there a way of FIFA being able to do the fans' bidding in this way? These are some of the thoughts I've had anyway, but I'll stop there.
Thank you, Ekene. Yinka, over to you.
All right. It's very interesting listening to two ladies talk about football, and I just have to hear their perspective.
Obviously, we're not talking about this game.
So Aisha asked about why there's no boycott. And my short answer to that is that there's $13 billion reason why there's no boycott. Because there's a lot of money on the table. Money runs football. It never used to be the case many years ago when there was a lot of advocacy, politics, human rights issues brought into football. But over the years, football particularly has evolved to a mega $1 billion industry. FIFA itself is a non-state organization. It doesn't belong to any state. It doesn't belong to any country. It doesn't belong to any region. It doesn't subscribe to any particular ideology or political system. It's a private organization basically owned by the committee, and they decide what happens in regards to football. They decide the rules, they decide who they give the rights to, and there's a lot of money circulating here. Broadcast rights, that are in the billions, ticketing and hospitality, sponsorship and marketing, licensing, even the players themselves and the teams get money from just participating. And, it comes in the millions of dollars. Each team that participates in this World Cup earns at least $10 to $11 million just for showing up. If they win, that amount can go up to almost 100 million just for showing up. So you ask the reason why did the Iranians show up, for instance. One would say, okay, they want to make a statement, but also I'm pretty sure that underlining that also is a financial benefit that they get from it. When we look back at history, and there's a lot of history, if you do a bit of research, there's a lot of history around sporting boycotts, not just football. The Olympics is one of the major highlights of sporting boycotts I've seen in the world. There is a long precedent of nations using boycotts as a weapon, weaponizing it as a way of sending across a message. And in the context of Africa, I think the biggest example we can use is the African nation boycotts of Olympic Games because of the apartheid regime. And what made it so interesting was not just because they boycotted one or two. I think they boycotted up to about 3. It was a decade-long boycott. It was sustained for a long time. And that sustenance sent across the message to the world, essentially, that we're not going to accept a different treatment of people in Africa. Forget about what the South Africans are doing right now. That's a different conversation. But Africa stood firm and fought apartheid with boycotts at that time, and it worked. So the question now is, so what precedent do we take away from that? I mean, do we look at that and say, okay, should we do something similar? Okay, let me mention one more precedent. In 1980, the US led 65 countries to boycott the 1980 Olympic Games in Moscow. And why did they do that? They did that to protest Russia's attack on Afghanistan in 1980. And 65 countries joined the US in that boycott. Of course, Russia also reciprocated in the next World Cup, which held, I think, in the US. So we have precedent to show that if we're just looking only at the political side of this, where we find the apartheid conversation, Africa has shown an example. If we're just looking only at the human rights perspective of it, which was what happened with the Russian invasion of Afghanistan, the US also has that example. The question now is, when you marry it with the current reality of what the US is doing in Iran and how it is also enabling what Israel is doing in Gaza, you ask the question, why can't other countries also, take up the reins and say, we're going to boycott the World Cup and join us and don't go to this World Cup? So it brings up that conversation of why they're not doing it. And for me, the reason is because what is on the table this time around, because football has become such a mega billion-dollar industry, there's just so much on the table to walk away from. And as sad as it is, we have to deal with that reality. I know of people who are so friends, sports journalists actually, who are so bitter about what's going on, but they are still at the World Cup. And I asked them, what are you doing there? If you feel so strongly about what's going on in Gaza, and you still show up, exactly. What are you saying? What are you trying to communicate? So I don't know. I think, I don't want to sound like there's nuance here without reflecting that the reason why we're asking for a boycott is very strong. But we also have to deal with the fact of what is making people ignore that reality and just,
Well, thank you so much for this wonderful perspective. To be honest, I didn't even know, or maybe I'd lost sight of that knowledge about Africa's boycott of the Olympics to fight apartheid, and to have done that for a decade. That's so powerful. And again, it goes back to showing that, as you pointed out, these boycotts work. But you've also pointed out something else I didn't know about how, I know that FIFA is a money-making organization, and I've read enough pieces over the last couple of years, because every time there's a World Cup, we have these conversations about just how, capitalist the organization is, how corrupt it is. I mean, people have, I'd even mentioned the fact that apparently aside from giving Trump a trumped up peace prize in quotes, that apparently they're paying for an apartment in Trump Towers, an empty apartment, just like it's basically saying, oh, and besides doing all that, still see what he's doing to their World Cup. He can't even be nice to the people who are coming in. But you've explained that money is behind it all. And you're right. I can't tell players who've been training for years, who this might be the peak of their career, not to attend the World Cup, especially if there's such juicy, in quotes, as the word we use in Nigeria, financial inducements. But again, it still brings me to the fans. Why are the fans there? I still don't understand that. Like, why can't we also? Or maybe we're like the players as well. I mean, the players are there because they're going to make money, but the fans are there to spend money. And maybe FIFA and all these people would have a second thought or think differently if there was nobody in the stands to cheer the players on. And I think, thank you too. And that brings me to a point that Kenen made that I really liked. Penalties for states who don't meet the criteria for hosting. Whether it's that they get banned from hosting for a couple of years, or they pay a fine, or their team can't play. There should be something meaningful when you do something disruptive in the way that the US is doing right now to the Olympics. I don't know what, Ekene, if you want to come in here. Thank you.
Yes, I think, Yinka has helped us focus on the money aspect. Even though it makes me sad to imagine that something that was done on principle and worked and demonstrated African unity for 10 years. Because at that time, whatever money they were making was still a lot of money. It's just relative. So are you saying that everybody has a price? That's a bit sad to me. I think principle should always trump the cost. If you made up your mind that this is wrong and it's worth doing, then do it. I like the fact that your advocacy really is targeting the fans. Like you say, what have they got to lose apart from the money that they're spending? I think one lady was saying how much I think she mortgaged her house or something to raise the money to travel. She's spending an incredible amount. They were interviewing her on the news, and all her family thinks she's mad, but there she is spending all this money. So the money Yinka is talking about, all these billions and millions and trillions, it's the fans that are generating it. It's through the fans, off the back of the fans, without the fans. So let's not let the tail wag the dog. The fans, I just think sometimes we lose sight of the power we have. Power to the people is not some nice cliche. It's actually true because the people are the reason for the football. And so if the people can somehow recognize that, then they can call the shots. I mean that literally. I don't think it's idealistic of me to say that. It's just that maybe sometimes there isn't that awareness. Like Inka is asking his friend who's a football critic, why are you there? It doesn't take anything to make it. He may say, well, if I stayed at home, it won't make any difference. But I think it does. I just think that that's awareness.
Absolutely.
Of knowing what you can do and then raising that awareness amongst like-minded people and it growing. Because ultimately we need to exercise the power we have, or you can't complain about it if you don't put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yinka, do you want to say that? Yes, talk about the fans. Please come in. Mm-hmm.
Let me just say that, in my view, I'm not so sure that a boycott based on fans will work because there's no precedent for that. What we have seen over the years that have been successful are teams, countries, or organizations just basically saying, we're not going to participate. And on the back of that, fans, say they respond. If you leave it to fans, football is a very emotional thing. I'm an Arsenal fan, for instance. A lot of people sometimes wonder, what is it about Arsenal that just gets you guys so crazy? It's because it's an identity. When you support a team, it represents you in a way. You become that team. Your identity is linked to it to a large extent. And so sometimes it's difficult for the fans to remove themselves from the emotions of it, because what does a fan get from the experience? It's not the money. What he gets from it is this experience that money cannot give. I mean, it can't get from anywhere else. I mean, this identity, this belonging, this sense of euphoria, that's what he's paying for.
So, Yinka, don't you think the fans could do a threatened boycott? I don't even think they have to boycott it. Even a threatened boycott online will get some attention.
Maybe.
Or what about viewership? What about viewership? Like, can they tell when people are not watching online? Like,
they can. I mean, if the fans stop watching, they will know. I mean, the revenues will not be there. Because a lot of all these revenues that FIFA is targeting is marketing revenue, is ads, it's adverts, it's all that. That's where it's coming from. And if people are not watching, okay, they will not make that money. And mind you, they make a lot more money from those of us who are not even at the stadium watching. It's not the people who go buy the tickets that are actually really funding a lot of all these things. It's people like us who sit at home and watch these matches.
Yeah.
So it's
I'm not watching any.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we need a new approach, probably because, like Mark Carney said at Davos, we are dealing in a world of uneven standards. So there's a rule for one set of countries, another rule for others. So maybe we can't rely on countries taking the initiative again. And so we in the civil society space, we have to think about how to really galvanize people online to boycott and stop watching. I mean, just say, okay, you know what? For 2 or 3 days or 1 week or whatever, we're not going to watch any match.
No, Yinka, you took the words out of my mouth because I think Trump has, even if Trump hadn't, I'm sure there are more people waiting in line to show just how crazy leadership can be.
Yeah.
So some of the actions Trump has taken must have alerted everyone to know that leadership is not predictable. Leadership is not responsible. So scenarios you would normally not expect to have to deal with, you're having to deal with now. So there's no point crying foul. It's better to do preemptive strike, prepare some sort of policy that anticipate some of this bad behavior so that it doesn't look like you're targeting the person in a reactive way. So once they fall foul of it, you just let the policy kick in. That's from the FIFA perspective, if that will happen. Since you were being told that they're renting Trump Towers.
Honestly.
I don't know how. But, even if Infantino is answerable to, because apparently I hear he had to sweet talk a lot of African nations to get to where he was. So African nations, even just for the sake of this Somalian brother, they can band together. So there's something that can be done. I just feel,
to be honest, I need to start doing a one-person campaign on my WhatsApp status and just be like, don't watch. If you're not,
I don't mind not watching. I don't lose anything by not watching.
I'm not watching anything. I'm not watching.
Aisha, this is the first World Cup that will have 10 African countries. We usually have 5.
So let's watch only the African games and we don't watch all the other ones. That's it. Since you said they can tell when we're watching and when we're not watching.
Maybe that'll work,
I think we have to get creative.
We have to be creative now, yes.
Yeah.
We will use our watching power, watch our own games, but when it's time with other people playing, we will not watch those ones.
So, actually, for some of us who don't watch at all, that would be a statement because we'll switch on for the African just to show that solidarity.
Can I shock you, ladies? Because of the behavior of South Africa, there's actually an orchestrated hit watch against South Africa when South Africa is playing. The rest of Africa is watching to make sure that
South Africa doesn't win. I know, but the fact
you see, it's working against South Africa. They're being made to feel like the pariah nation.
Yes, I don't feel. To be honest, I have. Usually, I have my temperament is not to tolerate nonsense in quotes, but I have been feeling differently about South Africa, and it's not to whitewash in any way or even excuse the xenophobia in any way. I mean, it's been happening, it's recurring, but I read something very thoughtful a couple of weeks ago. I really wish I could find it. One of the problems of reading too much, but it was sort of making a link between what the xenophobia in South Africa, and maybe that was also an apologist piece, who knows, but it was making a link between the xenophobia in South Africa and even just the xenophobia that we're seeing in Europe, pointing out that they actually named the person one of these European South Africans who, after 1994, moved back to England, and then a few years ago moved back around the same time this kind of, is going on. And I'm sorry, we all know that the Israeli lobby is very powerful and they take perception very, very seriously. And they always put dark money against any country, any person. Nobody is too small for them to go after. So I've been very suspicious about the timing of this increase in xenophobia in South Africa, which is not to say that the ANC has not messed up. But I think we need to move on in the interest of time into the second half of our conversation. But obviously, World Cup is going to continue happening for another couple of weeks. Maybe we'll come back to visit when our boycott works or doesn't. But Ekene, sounds like you're on my side. Let's do it. A 2-woman campaign.
Red card.
We give red cards to all the other. We only watch African games and forget.
Yes, apart from South Africa.
No, I mean I will even watch South Africa.
campaign slogan actually.
Red
Give
card,
them
yes.
a card.
Yes, red card.
We have to start the red card movement.
Yes. I really like.
Let's vote with our feet. Power to the people. Okay. What's on my mind? Well, permit me to speak plainly. We have the leaders we deserve. We have the leaders we deserve. Especially when I hear people say things like the end justifies the means. What I hear is that we're not really ready for change. When I hear people justify the thuggish style of governance and politics and make statements like, if you are to beat them, you must play the game like they play it. What I hear is that we're not ready. We have the leaders we deserve. Change says, I will not condone the evil that has put us where we are, not for one more day. And unless we're ready to demand that sort of revolution, let's not kid ourselves. We are well matched. We have the leaders we deserve, and we deserve the leaders we have. That's what's on my mind. What's on yours? Okay, so it's taken me a while to come to this position, and it's not with joy that I state it. It's just that I almost get to the point in politics now where I feel, let's call a spade, so that we're not building castles in the sand. You know, for the longest time, you've been holding out hopes for Nigeria and saying, oh, you know, at some point, people will rise up and demand better, and that somehow we have been oppressed by our leadership. I usually tended to put the blame on the squarely on the shoulders of the leadership, because I felt that leadership, by virtue of being leadership, can move things in the right direction much quicker than when you're expecting a lot of people who are mainly struggling with the stresses of everyday life to be the ones burdened with the responsibility to turn things around. It just felt like an unrealistic burden, almost like you were the same people who were suffering as a result of corrupt leadership. You're now blaming them on top of that. So to some extent, I was always, in that sense, defending the followership. But now I've come to that point where I look at it and then I listen to some of the conversations, especially among so-called elites. And I think to myself, am I really hearing what I'm hearing? To cut to the chase, when I think of the statement, I think was made in Buhari's regime that if we don't kill corruption, corruption will kill us. That's really at the heart of what I'm saying. I'm saying we're facing a lot of the symptoms we're experiencing now, a lot of the suffering we're experiencing now is really a product of corruption. Nobody will say otherwise. It's directly linked to the corruption in the system. So when we're then saying that unless you act within that same corrupt system, unless you condone it, like maybe Tinubu said, you know, we can't completely eradicate corruption, it will always be there kind of thing. It sounds to me like a doctor has just told you have cancer and you're saying, well, don't take it out. Let's just manage it. The two cannot coexist. You can't get healthy unless you cut this thing out. And once we hear people still making that statement that when you get in, then you can turn things around. I get the message I'm hearing loud and clear is that the intolerance to corruption is not yet where it should be. In which case, we're well suited to the leadership we have. We're happy the way, we complain, but actually we do like things the way they are. We're still in that mood where we're happy to straddle and play it in both camps. And perhaps we're getting something from the system as dysfunctional as it is. Because when we're fed up, when you've had it to hear, when you know that really this thing is on your neck and it's suffocating you, your language will change. So there's no need a few people crying more than the bereaved. Let us all be in that state of bereavement so that we know fully well and we can actually say this is what we want. Because for me, as far as I'm concerned, the only kind of true leadership I ever want to see, I know it may seem now more, even globally, it may seem like an ideal, is a leadership that not only talks, but points by their own actions, points us in the right direction. I can't ever bring myself to separate the posture of leadership from policy. Both should be aligned. You can't be doing one thing and saying another, and then I'll be letting you off and condoning and somehow finding something to give you credit for when your actions do not mirror. There's hypocrisy. There's a misalignment. So I need, even if you're just in that sense, you could say that maybe you're not a saint, but at least to some extent you are paying enough respect to the ideal. Then we can judge you on that, but not when it seems as if everybody has already let you off the hook as far as your actions are concerned. So I know, it's possible that I might be saying things that you may disagree with me on, but I just feel that as far as we haven't come to the point where we said to ourselves, this is an intolerable situation and this must end and we will not tolerate it, then it looks like we're still happy. You could call it the boiling frog syndrome. We're still happy with the state we're in. And that's where I want to sort of throw that particular diagnosis out and find out, what do you think, Aisha?
Well, thank you for that, Ekene. And it's funny, I think we're on this particular episode, we're on the same page on the two topics. for a change, which is unusual, 2 for 2. But I'm with you. I also used to really, really hesitate to say, oh, we have the leaders we deserve. You know, I would always argue and say, oh my God, but there are all these young people. Like if you look at the generation of 0 to 13, the Gen Alpha as they're called, we have apparently in Nigeria 82 to 86 million Nigerians in this age bracket, 0 to 13. Then you come to Gen Zs who are between 14 and 29. We have another 60, 63 million. So you look at it and like, are these are still children, you know, like, well, not the 29-year-old, but largely the large population is still children. Are they to blame too? You know, like they're not. And you want to think what is wrong with our elite? But I hear you. I'm also lately been saying, you know what, maybe I should really change track and agree that we deserve the leaders we have. Because when I hear things like Nigerians are giving their accounts to kidnappers.
Oh boy.
I know that, no, to be honest, that one hit me hard, and I'm just still almost reeling. Like, honestly, it's like a physical pain in my chest when I think about it. I'm just like, as in how? Like, how bad are we now? How bad are we now, for God's sake?
That we're corrupted.
Yeah, no, how bad are we that kidnappers will say, give me your account, and people are sending? As in, no, I can't even finish the thought. So I'm with you. Maybe that's it. That's it. But again, you know, we've also talked a lot about the elite. My own small understanding of the major revolutions that, in quotes, change the world, whether it's the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, they come from the elite. They come from the thinking class. They don't come from the masses. They don't come from the people that are hungry, the people that have been impoverished, who've not had access to decent education, who've get from one day to the next is literally like a survival Olympics. Those are not the people who trigger any thoughtful, meaningful change. At least that's what history has shown me.
I guess that's where my disillusionment is coming from. I'm hearing enough elites because seeming to be saying that the end justifies the means, and that for me is very disheartening.
I mean, it again is tied to our first topic. Like, it really, even if FIFA football is now a 13 billion industry, so does that mean everybody has a price? Is there no room for dignity, for taking a stand
at the moment?
Yeah. So to be honest, it would be interesting to hear what Yinka thinks, what our audience, what people who listen to the podcast think. But honestly, yeah, I'm beginning to think that maybe we do deserve the leaders we have. It's really unfortunate. Really unfortunate.
Thanks, Aisha, for that. Let me spin it a little for Yinka's sake and say, I'm not, even though it may sound like a very pessimistic statement, it actually, if you flip it, there is still optimism in there somewhere. It's basically saying that when we're ready, because I still feel power still rests and resides in us, the people, power to the people. When we're ready for change, then we'll have the change. We're not ready. That's the reason why we're where we are. Yinka.
Thanks, Ekene. This topic is one of deep reflection, and it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you are. It's a recognition of how bad things are and how we have come to this point where when we talk about these things, we recognize almost like an helpless, hopeless situation. I think the Nigerian people have been battered over the years with bad governance, bad leaders, bad economy, to the extent that they've lost their sense of virtue, of what is right from wrong. And it doesn't matter what you say, what you do. As far as the Nigerian is concerned, the end justifies the means. So whether it is sending their account number to bandits and kidnappers or finding a way to justify Yahoo, because that has become a thing now, Nigerians just don't care again. So that place of values, virtue, morality, integrity, all those things that we seem to pride ourselves before are no longer things that hold people at bay. So you get into public office now, your people expect you to steal. They expect you to steal because it's part of your give back to the community. You get into any position of authority, even in private sector now, you start to get some phone calls, some visits. People expect you to use your position or to corruptly use your position to benefit them. So I'm aligned with you on this particular issue of we deserve the leaders that we have. But my concern is this. I mean, you mentioned about revolutions or whether, you suggested that probably what we need is a revolution. And that's where
I was not really suggesting. I was just saying, well, change, like meaningful reform, like the French doing away with the monarchy. Something monumental. We do need it.
Yeah, the thing,
paradigm shift.
Yeah, we need a shift.
The thing here is, because I've had that said many, many times, Some say it loosely, some say it seriously. And I say that I'm concerned, really, because
it creates a vacuum.
there's a lot of history around revolutions. I mean, there's a 200-year history of revolutions if you study that, And for some of the revolutions I've seen and I've had to study, what I see there is that it usually started by peasants or by the afflicted. And those who started are not always the people who end it or who benefit from it. Take, for instance, the Bolsheviks uprising in Russia in 1917. It was started by peasants, okay? They were tired of the situation. They wanted the Tsar to go, and they went to the streets and they did what the revolutions do. They destroyed, they tore down and all that. But after it was done and the Tsar was gone, there was no leader. There was a vacuum. And the danger there is that those with agendas come in and fill it up. That's what happened.
And we're back to where we started.
That's what happened in the Russian Revolution. That's what happened with the Islamic Revolution of Iran in 1979. That's what happened with the Arab Spring as well. It was organic, but the people who started it had no agenda. They had no way of running it. But those who had the agenda waited for that opportunity and took advantage of it. So that's my concern really about issue around revolution.
Well, I mean,
I agree we need change. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking about being creative, and because I want to put two questions out there, being creative with solutions, because ultimately, no matter how we say, power still rests with the people. The people outnumber by far the 1% that are, almost like sucking us dry like vampires. So something can be done. And I hear you. Yes, the masses may not be the people in the right state of mind to generate that change. But I was just wondering, one question that came to my mind when I was reflecting on this topic was, why is it, and I think you said something similar, why is it that somehow the mind to put in the right things in place, if you or I or Aisha were running a private business, we would know that corruption equals loss as far as our profit margins are concerned. We wouldn't be looking for my nephew or my cousin. We will put the right person who would generate that income for us automatically. If someone defaulted or did something wrong within our business that cost us, we would immediately bring the axe down and we would make sure we penalize that person because we know what it means. It translates to our profit margins. But somehow, when it comes to governance, we are able to stand on the sidelines and let them run away with the money. So I just feel, how is it that we can import that kind of professionalism, that kind of, mindset into the way we superintend our governance system so that we see that the end does not. If anything, there are very close ties between the corruption we seem to be ready to condone and where we are today. The inefficient dysfunctionality, everything that is biting us is tied very closely to every time you see your governor or somebody using your funds in a way that is illegitimate, you should see that is him just sucking the country dry.
Can I just ask you a question? Why are we afraid of negotiated solutions or going through process? If we look at what happened in South Africa, the end of apartheid, did not happen on the barrel of a gun. It didn't happen through
violence.
It happened through negotiated settlement.
No, but there was violence too.
Yeah, the violence started
in the beginning, but
it was sealed through the.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we came down to sit down to try to find a negotiated solution. So I get you, and I'll allow Aisha to give her feedback. I just feel that we can use the process that we have currently, which maybe is amendment of the Constitution, using some of the instruments that we have, imperfect as they are, to be able to cause the change that we need.
I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt you, but I think the reason that apartheid reference actually made sense is because of the likes of Mandela and de Klerk. You had people who were ready to be sacrificial about it. Nigeria, whenever people talk about processes, and I know you usually want to go back to those, in my mind, I smirk because I just say, is it the same people that you want to go through processes with? They'll run rings around you. They're happy for you to talk processes while they run away with the money. Because if they were going to respect the processes, they'll respect it. It doesn't matter what process you put in play. As long as their mind is set on running away with the money and selfish gain, they're just stalling while they're stealing. So I'm not sure the language of processes plays to our advantage. It just, for me, it's more waste of time, which is why, even though I'm not normally one for anarchy, you somehow feel you need something to shake up the system before we go back to that language of processes. Because the people you're dealing with are not interested. That's my take. Aisha.
Yeah, well, I mean, really fascinating conversation. I would say in response to your question about why do we know in private business that, corruption will lead to the death of our business but in the States, it's okay. And I think it comes in partly to what Peter Eke, the late political sociologist, talked about when he introduced this two publics theory, where he was sort of saying that, I mean, for many reasons, whether it's European colonialism and whatever, that we almost have a split personality. And when it comes to the public, it's almost like there's no public. I don't know how to explain it. And
it's everybody's money.
Yes, exactly.
And nobody's money.
It's nobody's money, it's everybody's money. You take what you get. It's almost like the scramble for, like they did the scramble for Africa in whatever, 1884, whatever. This is our own scramble for the public goods. And so you just take what you can.
So the ship is sinking, but let me be looting.
It's almost like it's nobody, well, I mean, maybe it's putting, people say, is it your money? As in, you hear these things, people in government be like, is it your money? Let me steal if I want to steal. So that is one explanation. I'm not a sociologist or psychologist, but I know that theory of the two publics has been very famous and used in many, many, many academic and policy documents. So that's one explanation. And for me, it rings true because it's the only way to explain it. We point fingers a lot to the politicians that's however they want to describe themselves, have voted, steal their votes to come in. But even the civil service, even in state civil service, you can even say, okay, on the federal level, maybe everybody's like, okay, it's nobody's money. But even in the state civil service, where arguably these people are from this place, there's almost still no sense that the state is for collective. It's like it belongs to nobody. And so, and I would say that yes, we see less of it in business, but I would also actually argue, just for plain devil's advocate, that we still even see streams of this. And I wouldn't say in this case that is not
selfishness.
Yeah, well, almost distrust of each other. It's like we're not a public in the way that we care about each other, care about the well-being. I hesitate to say.
I mean, the fact that you said they were ready to take money from terrorists, that tells you how low we've gone in terms of
like this is
seeing ourselves as a people.
Exactly. So which is a strange thing to say, because on the flip side, I'm also aware that Nigerians donate generously. They like a story. So when people are down, or somebody is killed, or somebody needs money for health transfer, so I'm always hesitant to say we're not good people.
Our brother's keeper.
Yeah, because we do show up when we need to, but I don't understand then
what's happening.
I don't understand how on a personal, again it comes down to personal and state. On a personal one-on-one level, Ekene comes and says, I need money, or Aisha comes for this, we're happy to give her. But somebody else comes and says, let's build this hospital so everybody can go there. Nobody's interested.
Yeah, maybe there's no way of linking that.
Yes, maybe there's a disconnect in our minds between.
And is it possibly even linked to this desperation where people are able to go and be scooping oil, knowing that it could blow up in their face? There's a sense of let's just get for today, tomorrow.
And it's the same with even our party culture, where you find. In fact, I read a very interesting piece in Substack, and again we're talking about the elite and just a sense of irresponsibility. But they were talking about how even when they go to MBA, I think one of these MBAs and how people be fighting for everything, including bags. And what is wrong with us? I mean, you'd like to think lawyers are, they say, learned people. What are you scrambling for a bag and a notepad for God's sake?
Yes. There's a psychology there we need to look into. I mean, Yinka, I don't want to seem like I was dismissing your thoughts around following the process, but when I did look at one of the research I did, I just didn't want to start throwing it out so that it wouldn't seem like I was lecturing. But the Chatham House 2025 report did a kind of overview of the body language of our leaders over the years, from the first civilian rule, Olusegun Obasanjo, to Yar'Adua, to Jonathan, to Buhari, to where we are today. And it showed that, yes, even through civil societies, we had put certain things in place, like the corrupt practices and other related acts, like, electoral acts. The distance between those things and the implementation is still the problem. It's not because people haven't followed through on processes and tried to put the right things in place. People who don't want to implement those processes are still largely the ones calling the shots. And my concern is that I know that there are good people in Nigeria, just like what Aisha is saying, this dilemma. You know that there are people who can serve, and people who can serve very well and have a vision. Why are they not getting to a place where they can actually make the difference? Why don't we have enough of them where they can actually make a difference? Currently, we don't.
I think we just have a country where people lack accountability, and they don't like to be held to account. They like to get away with everything they do. It's the reason why, for instance, our religious institutions will believe that they have no reason to disclose their revenues or whatever, or be accountable to anybody. They don't pay tax. They don't make reports. There's just a general apathy in terms of people doing what is right, in Nigeria. I came out of my house one evening and a guy from the next door was peeing in the gutter. And I asked him, why are you doing that? You came out of your house to do that.
Wow.
And the guy looked at me, and then he looked at me, he was really shocked. He was like, what am I saying? It's government gutter. Government gutter. I was like, what's your problem? And in that same place, my neighbor, who is one of the contractors for a disco, was bypassing his meter, and we lived in an upscale elite area. He had no reason to do that. He can afford whatever pricing, but he still bypassed his meter.
So what's the vision for how? I mean, you've thrown out the corruption, processes thing, but I don't believe in that. We talk about educating people. I know there are enough of us. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say enough, but I interact with people. So in as much as I see those who are already corrupted, I also see those who still believe in change and are pushing hard. How do we get enough of us, who have a vision for Nigeria in positions of influence?
We've amended the Constitution 5 times already. I think we're already at the 6th attempt to amend the Constitution. So we can amend things that we can do. I don't think we should give up.
No, but I'm curious, what one amendment would you make that you think will make something that will make meaningful?
Electoral Act, how you get leaders elected.
Which one? What's your priority when you're prioritizing things to change in the Constitution? What's your number one?
I think I'll prioritize restructuring of this country away from the
unitary system.
Brand of federalism that we're practicing.
It's not a federalism; it's a unitary system.
Yeah, okay, yeah, the unitary system. I would devolve more power to the regions than to the center. I think that we need to break up this country in the way it's structured and put more power at the regions than is currently there.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess so. Maybe that would help. To be honest, I would say, as you said, Electoral Act right now. Maybe the Electoral Act is not even the way. To be honest, I'm very disillusioned about Nigeria. But I guess if I could choose one thing, I would change the electoral system from first past the post to a proportional representation system, which is actually more democratic. Because what it would mean in that case is, for example, where we had this situation in 2023 where the 3 main presidential candidates got 30-something, nobody would have won that. We will now need a 50+1 majority. Will it make the stakes for cheating higher? That's one thing. But proportional representation will also make sure that it's very hard to have a winners take all, and we would have more diversity in our national and state assemblies. But to be honest, yeah, I don't even know whether I would push for that.
So you think we should look at parliamentary systems of government, Aisha?
I think so as well. I think it's better. Well, I think it's more representative. And I also think we shouldn't do first past the post as an electoral system. We need something that's more representative of our diversity.
Well, as much as I have put this question out there that we get the leaders we deserve, I still hope that at some point there'll be enough of us who feel we deserve better and are ready to stick our necks out. Because Nigeria deserves better, even if we don't realize it yet. Nigeria deserves a lot. I always feel the reason I can't lose hope in Nigeria is it's such a great nation in spite of it all. So at some point we want to see that change in our lifetime. So I'll leave you to wrap things up, Aisha.
Well, thank you, Ekene. Thank you, Yinka, for such a very rich conversation today. Honestly, I would say this is one of my favorite conversations that we've had, and we've had quite a few now. So thank you for joining us, Yinka. We will keep inviting you. Thank you, Ekene. And thank you to our producers, Anthony and Joel. We really appreciate you. The wonderful teasers and promos that you make. Thank you so much for another great production, and I wish you all well. Join us again in another 2 weeks. Ciao.
Yes. Bye-bye. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of What's on Your Mind. Join in every second and fourth Wednesday of the month. You can listen to What's on Your Mind here on Africa Tech Radio and on all popular audio streaming platforms. Please leave your thoughts about this episode in the comments and